team says the project would cost about $4.7 billion. Their plan calls for taxpayers to fund about half of that.
The Chicago Bears are trading the #1 overall pick to the Carolina Panthers in this year's draft.
But our sources have told us, have told me, that an FBI raid did happen on defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, Alan Williamson's house. And
Kick a team while they're down apparently thought some thieves who broke into Soldier Field late Wednesday night made off with $100,000 worth of landscaping equipment.
There is the news from earlier today. Ben Johnson's going to be the head coach.
As you can see, the Chicago Bears have had a whirlwind of a decade so far in the 2020s. Even off the field, the Bears have made a ton of headlines. But do the Bears have anything to show for their enormous share of media coverage and conversation over the last few years? In my opinion, absolutely not. In fact, unproven and bad leadership at every level of the organization has caused the Bears to be bottom 5 in win percentage since 2020. Bears president Kevin Warren has barely done anything to move the needle on a new stadium. General manager Ryan Poles just got locked until 2030, despite having a 14-36 record and a 3-15 record within the division, which we're still waiting for him to take and never give back. Head coach Ben Johnson, despite an unbelievable track record as a coordinator, has never experienced the unique challenges of being a head coach. And last but certainly not least, the head of the snake and the face of the franchise, Caleb Williams is full speed ahead into his sophomore season with so much left to prove. A bottom 30 quarterback on third down last season, and even if he slashed his sack total in half from his rookie year, I would still consider that to be a poor mark. And equally as important, he needs to land the deep ball, which he struggled with sorely in his rookie season. Please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube and follow my other social media accounts. Links in the description below, especially Josh Fine Film Design on Instagram for some amazing sports cinema. And I cannot thank you guys enough for the engagement on the NBA second apron video a few weeks ago. I set out to have 120 subscribers by the fall, and I absolutely crushed that goal way before the deadline. So thank you so much if you're watching this and if you've watched my last videos. Today we're going to take a look at everything that's brought the Chicago Bears to where they are right now. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Since Ryan Poles has brought to Chicago on January 25th, 2022, he's pretty much been the only mainstay of the organization in that time span. And last month they gave him an extension through 2029. I could not have analyzed this better than the people over at 670 The Score.
15-36 overall record, 3-15 inside the NFC North, 4-21 on the road, 4-20 against teams that qualified for the playoffs. Marshall Harris, does that scream contract extension?
You already know the answer. It's a rhetorical question, and no, it does not scream contract extension.
I'm sure that there were conversations with the head coach that were, hey, do you feel like you are in sync with this GM? And if yes, then we're going to put you guys on the same type of contract.
Ryan Poles didn't hit the ground running or do any of the worst to first stuff that other regimes have done, but he sure as hell cleaned up a financial nightmare left behind by former general manager Ryan Pace. Even before Poles was king of the offseason, he sneakily had a genius offseason when he first arrived in Chicago. In 2022, the Bears had 93 million reasons to be the bottom feeders of professional football. Ryan Pace wasn't playing the long game near the end of his tenure. He was making desperation moves to save his job. Poles had to play cleanup, getting rid of veterans like Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, Eddie Goldman, Tariq Cohen, just to clean up the cap sheet. In 3 offseasons since, however, Poles has dominated the headlines and collected dividends from the Carolina trade in 2023, earning a reputation as king of the offseason, or offseason champions for the Chicago Bears. In week 5 of the 2024 NFL season, Chicago was this close to crossing the finish line on a resounding victory lap regarding that Carolina trade. En route to an embarrassment of their trade partners, Caleb Williams completed 2 touchdowns to DJ Moore and 304 yards of offense through the air. Caleb and DJ both coming from that Carolina trade, of course. On the other side of it, Bryce Young, who the Panthers acquired in that trade, didn't even play that game because he was so bad to start the 2024 season. Anyway, the reason I'm so cautious about the Bears and what makes this season so important and why I'm making this video, it all goes back to everything that happened after that performance against Carolina last year. Everything came crashing down so hard. Despite projections that Caleb Williams could be walking into one of the most comfortable situations ever for a first overall pick,
I think the situation that Caleb is in is the best situation in the history of the NFL draft for a #1 picked quarterback.
Ryan Poles completely failed to keep him upright during his rookie season. In reality, the 2024 draft for the Chicago Bears was a premature and unwarranted flex of confidence for Ryan Poles. When Coleman Shelton and Matt Pryor are protecting the interior and you go out and you draft a punter in the 4th round, it shows that Ryan Poles thought his job was finished. It shows that Poles thought he had all the luxury in the world when he really didn't. Additionally, the fact that the front office didn't even scout or take a look at Jaden Daniels shows an enormous lack of respect for the draft process and an inflated ego. The fact of the matter is that more attention to the O-line would have gone a very long way for Caleb's rookie year. And the front office should never have counted out Jaden Daniels. I'm not saying I wish we picked Jaden. If I could go back and redraft, I'd still pick Caleb. But I'm just saying the reason the Bears are at where they are now is because how Ryan Poles mismanaged the construction of the 2024 Bears. This offseason, you could tell that Poles was humbled by his team's performance. He did not let his guard down this time, and he put an enormous amount of attention into the trenches. Poles acquired Drew Dolman, Jonah Jackson, and Joe Thuney in the offseason. Although it's not going to be perfect like the Lions trenches or the Eagles trenches, Poles saw it just like the rest of us. He had to do everything he possibly could to patch up the Bears' offensive line. And for his promising offseason in 2025, he earned an extension through 2029 to align himself with Ben Johnson's contract. This Bears core, from top to bottom, is locked in for a very long time. Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze are all on the books until at least 2029. So even if they don't figure it out this year in 2025, they can keep trying to gel this puzzle together. Ben Johnson is the mastermind tasked with fine-tuning this football team. And from a bird's eye view, the way the Bears even landed Ben Johnson in the first place was pretty impressive. In the aftermath of Matt Eberflus's termination, they went beyond just leaving no stone unturned. They interviewed close to 20 candidates and even reached out to the Steelers about Mike Tomlin. Although Ben Johnson made it crystal clear that he wanted to coach in Chicago,
this is exactly where we wanted to be. It's exactly where we wanted to be.
He had Raiders minority owner, none other than Tom Brady, courting him to lead the charge in Vegas. And while the Bears roster is definitely better than the Raiders, just because it's Tom Brady, that has so much stake. And I'm sure that it didn't come easy to turn that down for Ben Johnson. But despite all the other possibilities for Ben Johnson and the Bears, they joined forces shortly after Ben Johnson's tenure with Detroit ended. Speaking of Detroit, it all fell apart for the 2024 Lions in their first and only playoff game last year. The 15-2 wagon could not be stopped all season long despite a laundry list of casualties to the defense. That is until Washington shocked the world en route to their first conference championship appearance since 1991. Detroit fans have a sour taste in their mouth, knowing they could have and should have gotten so much more out of the 2024 Lions, but that does not change the fact that Ben Johnson built an insane resume as offensive coordinator and led the league's best offense during his 3 years in Detroit. From 2022 to 2024, Detroit led the league in touchdowns with 182, yards with 20,134, total points scored with 1,478, first downs with 1,161, and quarterback Jared Goff single-handedly led the league in passing yards with 13,642. That's more than Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. It was Jared Goff because of Ben Johnson's leadership. Ben Johnson has been unquestionably the best offensive play caller in the business for the past 3 years. And now he gets to pair up with one of the most gifted quarterbacks to ever grace the NFL, all right here in Chicago. But Caleb Williams' arrival to Chicago was not so happily ever after. In fact, it was filled with a ton of drama. In 2024, the entire pre-draft process for Caleb was filled with character concerns and reports that Caleb didn't want to be in Chicago. And until the Seth Wickersham bombshell a couple months ago, those are just rumors with no substance. But come to find out, in the most stunning way possible, all of the rumors about Caleb not wanting to come to Chicago were true. And for the record, everything that Caleb was concerned about regarding Chicago came true as well. The excerpt from Seth Wickersham's upcoming book came out 3 months ago, but is still a stunning revelation into how the rest of the football community actually views the Chicago Bears. Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die. I don't know if I could do it with Waldron. I don't want my son playing for the Bears. I need to go to the Vikings. These were all real things that Caleb and his dad said when it became obvious that Caleb was going to be drafted by the Bears. No matter how well Caleb Williams has adjusted, and no matter how well he has ingrained himself into the Chicago community, these quotes show just how much healing and improvement the Bears desperately need. Like I said, it's Ben Johnson's entire job to wash the stink off the Chicago Bears reputation and bring dignity back to Chicago. So far, he's been praised for his attention to detail and holding all players accountable for any mistakes they make. He's thrown individuals and the entire first team offense off of the field many times so far in training camp for not lining up the right way or not getting out of the huddle the right way. He's called out Caleb for getting through his reads too slow or not finding the open man. He's really making players earn their keep, and he's putting the pressure on them to not slip and not falter because there are a bunch of guys behind them waiting to take their spot. Only time will tell if Ben Johnson can unravel a recent history of tragedy within the Chicago Bears and undo the bad habits that the Bears have built up over the past decade or so. Dane Orlovsky said it will take years, and he doubled down on this take that it will take years for Ben Johnson and Caleb to do that for the Bears.
So the other day I said it was going to take a couple years for Caleb to really get Ben Johnson's offense, and everyone was like, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take a couple years.
I mean, just because Ben has a lot of great players on his team, especially on offense, it doesn't mean he's guaranteed to hit the ground running and instantly, overnight, change this franchise. My only hope is that the Bears can improve over the course of a 17-game season. The 2025 Bears are not in their final form. But if we could start to see glimpses of a great team, especially towards the end of the season, then I would consider this season a success. I don't think the Bears are going to win 10 games or all these things like that. I think anything like 10 or 11 predictions for the Bears would be like drinking the Kool-Aid. And I did that last year and I learned my lesson. But I think our division is still really good. I don't think it'll be as good as last year, but I think it's still going to be good enough where we are probably still the weakest link in the NFC North. The other problem with the 2025 Bears is our schedule, even outside of the North, is fucking insane. We have this 4-game stretch near the end where it's Vikings at Minnesota, Steelers, Eagles, and then Packers at Lambeau, and then Browns. It's just like, the Bears are not going to catch a break this year. I'm not going to predict a winning record. I'm going to predict 8 wins. But if you want to hear my in-depth predictions about the Bears' schedule in 2025, let me know in the comments below. That's all I have to say today. I just wanted to look at everything that's gone into building the 2025 Bears. Ryan Poles has finally assembled a roster that looks like it's good enough to play professional football with a head coach who's produced at a high level for a long time. So I think there's still so much to be excited about, but at the same time, none of those players or coaches have ever proven anything at their position. You could say Ben Johnson's proved a lot, but he's not proven a lot as a head coach. And at the end of the day, they are the Chicago Bears. And unless you're somebody like my dad, who grew up in the 80s, you don't associate that with a good winning football program. That's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Goodbye.